Good morning, everybody. Thank you for everyone that's joining us. I think we will get started. We do still have a few attendees that will join us, but I think we'll start in the meantime. Right, so thank you everyone for joining us this morning in our webinar, The Future of Customer Experience from Call Center to Contact Center to CX Hub. I will be your webinar host today. I am Clara Wicht, and I currently head up Telviva's Product and Marketing Department. I think this is something that's not new to us, but we know that customer expectations have never been higher. The traditional voice-based world is rapidly becoming an omni-channel, AI-powered conversational ecosystem. However, it's critical that the balance in that is something we focus on, because you do want to have a digital when you want it, human when you need it design. And the customer experience should be at the heart of that design. So that is exactly what we'll be looking into today, what that evolution looks like, and then more importantly, how you can strategically navigate this shift to drive loyalty and business growth. Right, so just before we get started, a few house rules. This webinar is scheduled for an hour, and it will be quite interactive between our panel and our key speaker. And then in the end, we will take a few questions from the audience. So please feel free to ask any of your questions in the webinar chat channel. These will be discussed at the end of the webinar. Then just on another note, unfortunately, Martie de Beer, our contact center executive, cannot join us today due to a recent bereavement. So our thoughts are also with her. All right, now on to introducing our panel for today. Fani Vos. He is the National Executive in Operations at Lipco Business, and he's a certified key individual in the financial services sector. He's got a deep background in both the strategic sales leadership and operational excellence, and he brings a wealth of practical knowledge on driving efficiency and managing change. And then on to our keynote speaker today. Thanks, Fani. On to our keynote speaker for today. He is Dennis Wakabayashi, and he's the global voice of CX. Dennis delivers keynotes across 5 continents, impacting how professionals understand business and human nature intersections. And he's got a strong focus on customer experience. He's got quite a unique perspective from building an entirely new category of business, modern business, that also connects business decisions to their human impact. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over to you, Dennis, and start off with this question. How would you explain the concept of omni-channel engagement, and what are the benefits for customers, agents, as well as for businesses?
Well, first of all, I want to say that introduction has got to be the best introduction I've ever had anywhere, any stage, any online appearance. Thank you for that. And I think it really speaks to this connection between humankind and business. As globalization has taken place, systems, algorithms, AI have become the norm for the way to scale and grow. But sometimes I think scale and grow means more channels, more connection points, more ways to interact with humans, and humans often are expanding in maybe a different or a parallel direction. So this multi-touch omni-channel evolution, and if you're okay, Clara, and if you're okay, Fani, I want to just throw up a couple of quick slides. I brought some visual aids for the audience, and let's see here. So I'll share this. What I'll do is I'll just say, all right, so can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Let's see, why is it, I'm sharing here, but uno momento, I think. We'll try this one more time. All right, so share. Here we are, sorry about that.
No worries.
Here we go. All right, so then. All right, so
Perfect.
Why isn't it going?
Perfect.
Oh, there we go. There was a
Yeah.
little lag there. Okay, so thank you, audience, for bearing with us. Technical difficulties are always amazing. What we're looking at here is over time. So this evolution of channels in early 1990, we had like one channel, and what you saw is every year more and more channels became part of this conversation. And so now we're up to like 18 plus ways that customers can connect to businesses or businesses can connect to customers. And when you really look at this evolution, what I look at here is this key inflection point, which is where chat, WhatsApp, these text-based channels started to be similar in value to customers. And I'll just stop right there for a minute and just say, now that we're in this era where SMS, WhatsApp are becoming the norm, I think what we're seeing there is a generational shift as well. And I think that what happens is cultures play a big role in channel preference. So when you look at the world, for instance, Brazil, that almost 50%. When you look at the US, they prefer SMS, almost 50%. But what's interesting is the US only likes WhatsApp about 18%, and Brazilians only prefer SMS 5%. So what does that mean for us? It means that orchestrating, connecting, that's culturally relevant to the humans, and having systems that power that to create an experience that transcends just a verbal, audible text transaction are important. So that's a lot of buzzwords, but that'd be my answer there, Clara. What do you think, Fani?
I completely agree. That's what we've experienced as well, especially in the marketplace where the clients want to make use of their preferred method of communication. And that's culturally and also where they're based plays a role.
Yeah, it's true. You know, speaking of that, if I could just jump in, Claire, I have another slide that I looked at because what I do is I go around the world and I compile a ton of data about each market, each language, each customer experience aspect. And what's interesting is as you look around the world, each of the customers values something different by region. Clara, would you like to see that slide?
We'd love to see it, Dennis.
All right. So if you look here, the USA, I think many people would understand that the United States values speed. Brazil values warmth on WhatsApp. Africa prefers reliability. Philippines community and Europe, they really like their process. And I think how that really comes across in the unified channel is self-service, being remembered, consistent trust building continuity there. So what you can see is there is this alignment between what the market holds as a value. That might be traditional, it might be cultural, it could be brought upon by change in the society, could be, let's call it a natural weather phenomenon or a change in the government, a politic, the geopolitical forces in the region. But each of these markets has a personality and an individuality that omnichannel can address, to Fani's point.
I think this is so interesting to see, you know, the different sectors and what they each appreciate. So I guess, you know, you've been also embedded in contact centers across South Africa as well as the Middle East. And I guess despite the geographical differences, there are certain things that correlate and show us the changes how businesses must adopt digital channels. So is there something you can share on that point?
What I would say is businesses adopt the digital channel. So first of all, what's important to know is that each of the channels, while there are more options, as I showed in the first graph, so there's got 1 to 18 plus. Now, I recently did some research for a company, and they were looking for when did things change in terms of the channels. And what my research found was that in May of 2024, particularly in the USA, people went from looking at 1.5 channels where they might search on Google to 5 different channels. Could be they look at Reddit, they look at YouTube, they look at TikTok. But between AI, TikTok, and these changes in the digital landscape, many people are looking at many different channels. Each of the regions will address channels in a different way. And but I have another slide. I'll just throw this up here as another reference, which is if you look here, what you can see is omnichannel versus legacy solutions has higher satisfaction scores and faster resolution times, right? But it's not the same for every country. So you can see how the US, Europe, Africa, how they all stack up in these 2 metrics. Why is that? Well, it could be because the businesses there favor a particular resolution. It could be because the customers there have a continuous cultural proclivity to a challenge. So that is to say, each business in each market, it's not enough to say we do omni-channel. It requires us to think about what channels and what the customers need culturally, and how can our platforms adapt to be symbiotic in their environments.
Absolutely, and I think the human at heart in that design is critical. Because if you just add more channels, despite omni-channel, despite the technology used, at the heart of this design should be the human experience. So with that in mind, I think, Dennis, I mean, with multi-channel, multi-touch world and all the channels, how does AI fit into that?
Well, what's interesting is AI, and Fani, and we were talking about this a little bit behind stage, AI has become such an important player. AI can fit in, Fani, you were pointing out that in some markets, it's better that the AI behave in a human way. And maybe that's because the population is a little bit older, or maybe they're a little bit more trustful of human to human interactions. But I can tell you in certain parts of Europe, there was they had a really tough time getting AI agents to become adopted until they did this one thing, which is they had the AI agent introduce themselves in a human way that said, hey, I'm Dennis. I'm an AI agent. I'm going to do my very best. I'm still learning. And if you can work with me, I'd really appreciate it, because I'm trying to prove myself at this company. And what that did was made the human connection to the AI agent. And what that did was it was a vast improvement on adoption. And therein lies this human connection that we're all looking for. I could go into the details, Clara, but the real reality on AI is it's here. There was a point not too long ago where AI became a true asset within the contact center, meaning agents were trained, agents saw the value from AI, agents their fear of losing their roles or their jobs changing because of AI, those have subsided. And now we see that agents are better. Resolution is better. Cross-sell, upsell is better. Handle times are down. Deflection is up. So AI is probably, in my opinion, the most one. The contact center is one of the places where it's been most mature. I've said that from the very beginning. The contact center is the place where AI it took hold, and it really has shown its worth. I would say that we see AI in other industries not quite coming up to speed, whether it's because of accuracy in financial transactions, whether it's advanced privacy concerns, whether the systems are connected to governmental systems in a way that creates a slowdown. So the contact center in AI is here, and I just left Portugal, talking to a whole group of people in this space, and it's just fascinating to see the work that's being done, from now moving on to things like translation or other pieces of the business. So AI is here, and it's quite a marvel to watch.
Absolutely. And I think, as you've said, that whole journey in terms of where it's going and that agentic side is also quite an interesting point, on agent assist and how you can enable your employees and your agents at the end of the day to ultimately deliver a better customer experience. So,
Yes.
Dennis, are there also a couple of agent benefits you would point out of how omnichannel employs or empowers the team?
Yes. So it is really about the agents. I've been a long time advocate of the agents. As you know, I've spent time on the front lines in multiple countries. In fact, I try to make it a general rule that when I work with the company, that part of our first step is making sure all the executives spend some time in the contact center on the front lines, seeing what agents are capable of in terms of multitasking and handling the needs of customers, because frontline agents are, in my opinion, like the best jugglers of business in the world, and they do get benefits from this multi-channel approach. So I did, Claire, because I knew you would be wanting to know about the agents. I have a slide, and I'll just show you this. This information I've been compiling this from country to country. But what you see is it helps agents with concurrent conversations up to 7 times more. It improves searching for things. When you think about how much of our industry used to be hunting for the right answer now, and the reason I bring that up is, if I'm an agent, I want to help the customer. Now, I'm in charge of helping the customer, but if I have to hunt and look, every time I take a step and turn where I don't have the answer for the customer, it takes a toll on me psychologically, because I feel like, how hard is it to help this customer? I've taken ownership for this customer's challenge. And so having this reduction, it's good for not just effectiveness, but the mental health of our agents has drastically improved because of this. Improves the number of resolutions, improves the number of first contact resolution. And then I think, strangely enough, omnichannel provides 42% roughly job satisfaction. And that has to do with being able to solve customers' challenges, feeling empowered, getting smarter at self-learning on the job. I would say we see AI training and real-time feedback becoming much more valuable than our old system of doing that. And ultimately, the context clarity for everything has been improved, because what people do in one channel is different than what they do in another. So that is to say, the more rich we can make the relationship between the customer and the business by speaking to people in the channels that they prefer, the better harmony that we'll have between commerce and community.
I like that. And I think, just to reference that other slide you brought up with regards to what customers value by region, because it was quite interesting to see, you know, in the USA versus Brazil versus Africa, and they're all on different channels. So I guess with, you know, despite the region that a business or a company might be in, is there a global connector, you would say, that businesses should keep in mind when mapping out their communication strategy with different touch points? At the heart of that, what is the key element of that journey design that they should keep in mind?
Well, I put together another slide of a couple of pitfalls that you might want to consider if it's okay to share a little how-to. I think these are, and Fani, you keep me honest on this if you have something you want to add, but I do think that there are a few things that we want to avoid. I'll put them on the screen for your audience. What we ultimately want is a unified system of channels for a lot of reasons: integrations, technology, scale, knowledge bases, training, all of that. You don't have to tackle all of the channels at once. To your point, each of the markets or businesses has a different need. So you can prioritize the rollout. What I will also say is what I found in the research when I was in Portugal is after a feature is rolled out, the time to see the return on the investment is about 60 days now, where we used to see a long window. Once a solution rolls out and it's adopted, the payback starts to happen. So you want to phase rollout, you want to lead with experience and agent capability, and you want to measure a lot. I think everybody knows that. And I think what you want to do is you want to have a unified data layer, you know, build a single profile so that everyone starts to know the customer the same despite the channel that they're on.
Absolutely. And I think we've all been at the other side of sending a request to a business, whether it's, you know, on a phone call or whether on a web chat, and you have to repeat yourself. So I think the consistency, exactly to your point, Dennis, is building that single profile of the customer is important.
So true.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Dennis. I think you've really captured it beautifully. With at the heart of this whole design should be the human experience on whichever channel is used, because exactly, you know, whether it's omni-channel is important, technology is important, but how you design it, I think, is very important to have that as the basis of the design, and having that human experience as the golden thread throughout that journey.
And it's just because I want to say how you design it. What's really important about what you said is the design comes from the customer. So how we respond to the customer's need design has everything to do with the platform and the technology that we select that has the greatest capability to adapt to the market, the transactions, the concerns, the desires, the needs, and the life cycle of the humans in it. So yes to everything you said, but my CX mind always wants to put that customer right there at the center.
Absolutely. And that's where they should be, right in the center. Right. So I think this is also a good transition point for us to connect the strategic and the why we focused on to the how, and look at a real world success story, which is where Fani will be sharing some insights with us. And Fani, I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about Lipco Business and what the main challenges were that you faced in managing your customer interactions.
Sarah, Dennis, I completely agree with you. To start off, I think I need to give a bit of context. Lipco Business is an intermediary or sales company selling the Law for All product on behalf of Absa Insurance Company, who's our underwriter. We have 8 offices across South Africa with 90 direct sales staff or face-to-face salesmen and women, and a call center of about 10 agents. Now, our biggest hurdles or challenges that we faced was lack of mobility for our call center and admin staff. And as we were investigating that, COVID struck, and that just exacerbated why we needed a solution that is flexible enough to provide to our direct sales staff in the field, but also to make work from home available to our admin and call center staff. And then a secondary challenge that we faced was finding a call center solution that is flexible, but could also assist us in the unification and reporting of that various lead sources. Lead sources coming in from SMSs to telephones to emails, etc.
Mm. And did these challenges affect your ability to reach your customers and to offer that accessible and, I guess, affordable legal services?
Us as a sales company, it greatly affected us, specifically with the onboarding of that client. So our phones were based in the office, which means that if a client missed something on an application form, which is done in paper to the face-to-face salespeople, if the client missed something, like I said, or they made a mistake, we could only fix that once we got to the office. That was a massive challenge, and we started overcoming that by bringing in cell phones. But I mean, Talviva greatly assisted with that as well.
Right. So I guess in that phase of choosing the solution, what made Lipco Business partner with Talviva and also led to the adoption of Talviva Omni?
To be honest with you, at the point where we evaluated the the systems, we were comparing Microsoft because we're a Microsoft company, and we were considering going with Teams. And in the same breath, we looked at Talviva that provided so many options and multiple usage models. And eventually, Microsoft Teams did not have the licensing at that point in South Africa, and we went with Talviva for what they provided with the usage model as well as the cost-effective solutions.
I think in the product environment as well, it's always so interesting to understand what is the decision-making criteria of an end user and a business. So I guess what were there specific capabilities that were most important to you when you were making this decision?
The system had to be flexible in the fact that we can then use it on a cell phone in the field. And I mean, our guys go rural up to places which is on the borders of the country. It also had to be able to be used on a phone, a handheld phone, but also on a laptop in a soft phone scenario. Along with that, we needed a solution that could cater for the call center staff, dealing with both inbound calls, outbound calls, dealing with emails, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always good to hear that because that ultimately, drives the decision making. And I think we've all been involved to change in change management to some degree or another, and that can be quite a big component. When either switching to a new solution or the change of an old to a new platform. So change management has quite a big impact on that as well. So, I mean, what would your feedback be in regard to how you approach the implementation to obviously minimize that disruption to your customers and your staff, and in that staff training and change management process you applied?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. From a customer's perspective, we were lucky in the fact that it was a very smooth transfer and there was minimal impact on the customer as such. From our direct sales perspective, we could immediately make the change and it was immediately onboarded on the cell phone service. We were lucky in the sense that you had the cell phone providers as a backup scenario, but Talviva was immediately onboarded and the take-up rate has been phenomenal. In the call center, we ran it concurrently for a month, but there were such minimal interruptions that we didn't even need to switch over once to the previous system. It just from day one ran and it was a really smooth transition. Then, I mean, a big thing to consider also is training and the role that training plays. But for us, the staff training and change management played such a pivotal role, but at an earlier stage than actual implementation. It started at the stage where we had to convince your directors and your senior management to move away from an actual handheld phone to answering a call on a laptop, and to convince them that it is better to do that. And this is what makes Telviva such a great solution. To our old school execs, we could provide a handheld phone on that standing on the desk. But to the eager minds and adapters, they were the ones that helped us to be the change agents and to assist in helping those hesitant staff to do the change over to the soft phone. And currently, throughout the entire company, we've got one handheld phone left. All the rest is soft phones. And I really want to thank Telviva, how you went and walked with us through the entire change process. You never backed off, and you kept being the specialist and giving that advice.
Thank you, Fani. It's always lovely to hear that feedback, but that is ultimately how we want to walk that road with the customer, whether it is, just eventually switching from a desktop phone to using your laptop to answer the phone, or whether it is, the whole mapping out a whole communication journey from introducing additional channels such as WhatsApp. So I think that's good to hear, because you don't need to be the specialist. We can guide you in that journey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been talking about benefits throughout this webinar as well, but were there any measurable benefits that you can share since your adoption of the omnichannel solution?
100%. When we adopted Telviva, we went with the Qmetric solution. However, in 2023, we had to reevaluate what the Qmetric system gave us, with the fact that we needed the multi-channel approach. And Telviva suggested to us that we should look at Telviva Omni. We raised our concerns, and the benefits we have seen from implementation of Telviva Omni is, first of all, visibility of agent performance at a granular level. I mean, like Dennis also said, you want to measure everything. You could look into calls, breaks, outcomes of engagements, time spent, which channel each agent does better at, so that you can utilize that agent for that channel.
That's right.
A guided script made a big difference for us from the perspective of complaints. And we also could see an increased success or sales rate coming from that. So complaints decreased. And then lastly is individual reporting that you could provide to your underwriters, to the marketers, and to the people that does marketing as such.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to hear that. And also, I guess, is there a specific customer success story that illustrates the difference?
Yeah, we're in the financial industry, so there's actually a couple of stories I can tell you. But I want to focus on the specific one from a direct sales perspective, where we made a sale to a client. Client completed the application form. The marketer took the application form to the office and submitted it. And sale was done. However, there was a mistake made on the application form, and the client had to be phoned. So the marketer used Telviva, or the Telviva One system on a cell phone, to reach the client. The call was made and it was recorded, and this is the positive. So at the point where the client then disputed or complained about the sale, which was about 6 months ago, he complained about the sale, and we could retrieve the application form with his actual signature on, as well as the fact that we have him on voice recording fixing the application form. So therefore, the complaint was invalid. So that has definitely made a big difference in our dispute resolution. And just for interest's sake, from our call center perspective, I would like to say that our complaints has reduced by 90%.
Wow.
So that has made a big difference.
That is significant.
Yes. Yes. Clara, I want to throw something back to you from Talviba perspective. We spoke a bit about pitfalls earlier, but from your perspective, what pitfalls do you think organizations should avoid when modernizing that new customer engagement, what we're discussing now?
Hmm. Oh, it's intimidating being on the other side of the questioning. Um, I think, I mean, this piggybacks on the slide that Dennis also shared earlier, of some pitfalls to avoid. But I think to just simplify it in 3 points, I think often one can focus too much on the technology and overlook the critical human at the end on the other side of that. So I think point 1 would be falling in that adding a channel trap. So just because there are multiple channels doesn't mean you need to
That's
adopt
right.
them right at that point. Because let's say, for example, if you just deploy WhatsApp or live chat without properly integrating that with your backend, that often results in a fragmented customer view and customer experience. So that's the typical example we spoke about earlier. I might log a complaint or a query on WhatsApp, for example, but if I phone in later, I have to repeat myself. There's no context of that. So I think it's important to take that in mind when you're designing that journey of what the customer will experience and how that can integrate into your CRM systems, contact center platform to get that single unified thread of a conversation for the agent's perspective, but also for the customer dealing with that. So I think that would be point 1. Another element I would say is the over reliance on automation. I think automation is very important, but you at the end of the day, you want that design to be digital when you want it, human when you need it, so that human touch and the empathy remains in that entire process. So there's a lot of processes where you can automate FAQs, status checks, and simplify that to get to customers a response to customers quicker, but you still want to have the balance between that human empathy so that there's no erosion or loss of empathy. And then I think lastly, not to talk too much because I think there's a lot one can say, but not to neglect the employee experience. You know, we've spoken a lot about process, technology, systems, and all of that is important, but the people pillar is also very important in delivering that good customer experience, because your human agents are the front line of your CX hub. And I think often they can be overlooked in favor of customer facing tools. So technology without enablement undermines the adoption of that. And I think a good employee experience ultimately drives a better customer experience. I think, yeah, those are kind of the 3 points I'd focus on. Dennis, I'm not sure if you'd like to add anything else to that.
You know, you touched all the right things, which is agents, the front lines are where reality takes place. So it's a really nice feedback loop to have the agents part of the equation. The culture, local culture, as you said, plays a significant role in the definition of the channels that are portrayed in a rollout. And, you know, Fani, your success there in being able to connect the business, the operations, and the technologies together with the front lines and the customers. I think all of these 3 things are at play. What's tough about it is each of us, many of those of you on the webinar, are in different stages of understanding or being able to take advantage of this new era of omni-channel. It could be because of contracts, it could be because of budgets, it could be because of just lack of information. So there's a lot to consider when you get into these deployments. But what is absolutely clear is that we're not going to go back to one channel, and AI is making it easier for us to do a better job. Everyone, from us on this webinar to the front lines, across the board. It even helps customers self-serve better. So
I agree.
Fani, I think a last question I'd like to ask you would be, how does Lipco Business see customer engagement evolving in the next few years? And how do you see technology supporting that vision?
As I mentioned, we sell a service to clients, be it insurance, but technically it's a service. And clients, I feel, want to know that they can easily reach their lawyers, in our case, be it at a regional office if they want to. But the reality is that that client wants assistance instantly on any communication platform that they prefer. And it is therefore our job to understand what those platforms and those solutions are. Now, this indicates the need for the multi-channel approach. However, it needs to remain cost effective. And I think this is the other side that we sometimes don't consider, but it needs to remain cost effective to the client as well. Whether that's data and airtime or sending a message on WhatsApp, just to take that into consideration. And then the last thing I want to say is that AI will definitely, I see it will play a crucial role in customer engagement in the future. How exactly that is going to play out in a marketplace like South Africa, I can't wait to see what will happen. Thank you, Clara.
Thanks, Fani. I think it's so exciting to listen to your feedback as well, and also to take the theoretical element of it and how it's applied practically, and you also sharing the benefits and the difference it has made for you as a business. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Right. I think we're at a point where we are concluding our webinar. If there are no questions and answers in our in the chat channel, if you do have a question, feel free to ask, audience. I think, Dennis, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with as a key element to take into account?
I think I would just challenge everyone in the world to reflect on what we said, because we weren't talking about a technology or a solution as much as we were talking about the harmony between machines and humans and cultures and communication and layers of change throughout the world. And each of us plays a part in that. Just because I'm a frontline agent doesn't mean that I'm not important to the change that's happening in the world. And the more that we collaborate together to accept and embrace other cultures, to accept and embrace technologies, to further the understanding across the board, the better place the world will be.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like that.
I also like that. I like the layers of change reference you've made. Because there's the only constant is change. We're seeing that with all the new things evolving, new channels being added. So that's absolutely that. Fani, are there any closing remarks from you?
Well, I think the last closing remark is I completely agree with what Dennis is saying, and what you said somewhere as well. Whatever we do, we need to ensure that the customer stays at the ultimate pivotal point, and that must be the goal, to service the customer and to have them happy.
Absolutely. Having the customer at the heart of that design. Thanks for that. Right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you, Fani, for sharing your insights, valuable insights, practical and strategic. And I really hope, audience, that you found this valuable and that you can walk away with a better understanding of where you are in your customer journey design. What are the next steps? And yes, even if you do not know the next steps, get in touch with us. We're happy to guide you on that journey. Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.